Good evening, you're watching News Mongolian World. I'm your host, Ulaanbaatar. And for top stories, well wishes gather as Mongolia's president welcomes Pope Francis in a ceremony on Ulaanbaatar Square. Pope Francis and President of Mongolia U.Khurelsukh delivered speeches during the official welcoming ceremony. Pope joined shamans, monks and evangelicals to highlight Mongolia's faith, diversity and harmony. And for the news, stay tuned. In a historic visit that captivates the world's attention, Pope Francis embarked on a journey to Mongolia from August 31st to September 4th, 2023. This visit marked the first time a sitting pope had set foot in Mongolia, signifying the strengthening of diplomatic and spiritual ties between the Vatican and the Mongolian people. Let's take a look at major parts of the Pope's visit to Mongolia.
Pope Francis attended a welcoming ceremony on Saturday in the capital of Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar, alongside President U.Khurelsukh. Francis arrived in Mongolia on Friday morning to encourage one of the world's smallest and newest Catholic communities. The Argentine pontiff watched honor guards and cavalry at Ulaanbaatar Square, the capital's main square, before greeting Mongolian officials and Catholic cardinals.
I think it's good. It's very important to do that, and I see in the streets everybody is very happy about this. Now, of course, the people who believe, but also in the atmosphere in the street was very nice.
Mongolia joined the United Nations in 1962, and some 60 years later, Pope Francis is doing an official visit. And this visit is such an historic event. Mongolians are a very peace-loving nation. We are against the Ukraine war.
Francis is visiting Mongolia to minister to its young Catholic community of 1,450 and make a diplomatic foray into a region where the Holy See has long had troubled relations with Russia to the north and China to the south. While Christianity has been present in Mongolia for hundreds of years, the Catholic Church has only had a sanctioned presence in Mongolia since 1992, after the country shrugged off its Soviet-allied communist government and enshrined religious freedom in its constitution. The Holy See and Mongolia have had a diplomatic relation ever since. Buddhists make up the majority of 3.3 million nation.
Pope Francis on Saturday praised Mongolia's tradition of religious freedom dating to the times of its founder, Genghis Khan, as he opened the first-ever papal visit to the Asian nation with a plea for peace and an end to an insidious threat of corruption. From ancient times to the present day, your people have embraced the significant challenges of global democracy and development over recent decades, all while preserving your ethnic heritage. Mongolia, as an active member of the United Nations with extensive diplomatic relations, now plays a crucial role not only in Asia, but also on the international stage, with its unwavering commitment to respecting human rights and promoting peace. I would like to emphasize your decision to declare to the world that you are a nuclear weapon-free state and your dedication to halting the proliferation of nuclear weapons. Mongolia is not only a democratic country with a peaceful foreign policy, but also a nation with a mission to contribute to global peace. Additionally, your efforts to abolish the death penalty are a significant step forward. The state principles to respect statehood, striving for peace with the ultimate goal to foster harmony and unity was passed down to us by Genghis Khan, and this legacy has been relayed throughout many centuries, and today Mongolia is pursuing a peace-loving, open, independent and multi-pillared foreign policy, and we are working consistently towards strengthening global and regional peace and security. With a view to peacefully contributing to the international community's efforts in addressing regional and global security challenges, Mongolia has been offering its initiatives, and we are actively engaging in our two eternal neighbors, as well as our third neighbors. On Sunday morning, Pope Francis attended an interfaith meeting with Buddhist, Jewish, Muslim, Shinto and Christian faith representatives on the third day of his visit to Mongolia. The Argentine pontiff gave a speech to the gathering, highlighting the role that religions can play in forging world peace.
Il cielo così limpido.
Brothers and sisters, today we are meeting together as the humble heirs of ancient schools of wisdom. In our encounter with one another, We want to share the great treasures we have received for the sake of enriching a humanity so often led astray on its journey by the myopic pursuit of profit and material comfort. People in our time are often unable to find the right path. Being concerned only with earthly interests, humanity ends up destroying the earth and mistaking progress for regress, as attested by so many injustices, conflicts, persecutions, environmental disasters, and great disregard for human life.
Si misura la valenza sociale della nostra religiosità.
Francis listened intently as a dozen faith leaders, Buddhist, Muslim, Orthodox, and evangelical Christians among them, described their beliefs and their relationship with heaven. Several said the traditional Mongolian gear or round-shaped yurt was a potent symbol of harmony with the divine, a warm place of family unity open to the heavens where strangers are welcome. The interfaith event held at the Hun Theater in the capital Ulaanbaatar came midway through Francis' four-day visit to Mongolia, the first by any pope. Francis is in Mongolia to minister to one of the world's smallest and newest Catholic communities and highlight Mongolia's tradition of tolerance in the region.
Pope Francis presided over Mass in the Mongolian capital Ulaanbaatar city on Sunday as part of the first ever papal visit to the Asian nation. Pope Francis is in Mongolia to minister to one of the world's newest and smallest Catholic communities. Around 1,450 Mongolians are Catholic and make a diplomatic foray into a region where the Holy See has long had troubled relations, with Russia to the north and China to the south.
While Christianity has been present in the region for hundreds of years, the Catholic Church has only had a sanctioned presence in Mongolia since 1992, after the country abandoned its Soviet-allied communist government and enshrined religious freedom in its constitution. Pope Francis on Saturday praised Mongolia's tradition of religious freedom dating to the times of its founder Genghis Khan as he opened his visit with a word of encouragement to Mongolia's tiny Catholic flock.
Holy Father, we are about to receive your blessing at the end of the Eucharist, celebrated in Mongolia for the first time by the successor of Saint Peter. Your presence here is for us as a source of deep emotion, difficult to express in words.
In a historic moment of spiritual significance, Pope Francis presided over a Mass in the heart of Mongolia held at the Steppe Arena Sunday on September 3rd. The Holy Father's visit to Mongolia has been marked by a remarkable gesture of solidarity as he brought together two prominent figures of the Catholic Church from Hong Kong. During his Mass, Pope Francis extended a heartfelt message of warmth and unity to the Chinese people. During the Mass, Pope Francis invited both the retired Bishop of Hong Kong, Cardinal John Hon Tong, and the Cardinal-elect Stephen Chow to join him at the altar.
Thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Here's the international news from our partner agencies. Southeast Asian leaders led by Indonesian host President Joko Widodo are gathering in their final summit this year, besieged by divisive issues with no solutions in sight. Myanmar's deadly civil strife, new flare-ups in the disputed South China Sea, and the long-standing United States-China rivalry.
The Association of Southeast Asian Nations meetings are beginning in Jakarta, Indonesia, with tight security. Notably, U.S. President Joe Biden, who usually attends, is absent, which adds to the already somber atmosphere of the gathering. After discussions on Tuesday, ASEAN heads of state will meet the Asian and Western counterparts from Wednesday to Thursday, providing a platform for wide-ranging talks on free trade, climate change, and global security, often becoming a battleground for U.S., China, and their allies' rivalries.
The absence of the U.S. president, while it is disappointing and symbolically significant, is for me is the least of the worry because what's more worrisome actually is the more fundamental structural tendency for ASEAN to become less and less prominent.
Chinese Premier Li Qiang will participate, along with U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Biden will travel to the G20 summit in India and then visit Vietnam to strengthen regional ties. This absence is not seen as relegating ASEAN in terms of geopolitical priorities, as the U.S. aims to deepen its engagement in the region. ASEAN, founded in 1967, follows principles of non-interference in the member states, domestic affairs and decision-making by consensus, allowing any member to veto unfavorable decisions or proposals. This diversity has both its strengths and limitations.
I'm not surprised at all because, as I said, ASEAN is not providing the need, is not fulfilling the need that is actually felt. So absenteeism by ASEAN is leading to unmet needs, and those needs are being met elsewhere.
Key issues overshadowing this summit include Myanmar's prolonged civil strife and South China Sea disputes. The European Union has warned that its relations with ASEAN could be affected if Myanmar assumes a leadership role, prompting Myanmar's military-led government to consider giving up its role as host in 2026, with the possibility of the Philippines replacing it. Myanmar may also not assume the coordinator role for ASEAN and European Union relations starting next year. Myanmar's generals and their appointees have been barred from attending ASEAN meetings due to their failure to comply with the peace plan, and the country remains in turmoil with thousands of casualties and arrests since the military takeover.
As time goes by, all these opportunities simply evaporate. ASEAN continue to saying that it's so difficult, it's so complex. Even I regret the statement also from one of the member leaders saying that let's just forget about Myanmar. It's a burden. And our foreign minister in Indonesia is also saying the same. If we focus on Myanmar, we may not be able to move on to other agendas. To the Myanmaris, this is such a pain, to hear.
ASEAN member states are discussing proposed rules that would allow decision-making even in the absence of consensus, a reform aimed at enabling quicker responses to crisis. ASEAN's credibility is at stake if the Myanmar crisis persists, highlighting the need for flexibility in addressing such issues despite lacking conflict resolution mechanisms.
Here's the weather forecast of all major cities. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with news and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.